Out of all the legendary revolvers that demand reverence from the shooting faithful, perhaps none have the mystique and following that the Colt Python does. Originally designed as a super premium target revolver in the 1950s, the Python earned an enviable reputation for extreme accuracy and a wonderful out-of-the-box action. Always a premium item demanding highly skilled tradesmen for its manufacture, Colt simply stopped making them entirely by 2004. Naturally, demand and prices for existing Pythons went right into the stratosphere, putting them out of reach for most shooters and collectors. But then Colt announced the return of the Python quietly in 2019. Revolver lovers rejoiced, but some purists cried foul due to changes that Colt made. Is the new snake all that it's made out to be? Find out in this video, because I'll be telling you everything that I wish I knew earlier about the Colt Python. We'll get right into our analysis, but before we do, please consider supporting us by signing up as a channel member. Channel members get access to exclusive perks like private videos, upcoming guides and how-tos, and other downloadable content. Plus, your membership will go a long way towards helping us make our videos even better and reach an even wider audience. Thanks for thinking of us. And now let's get Colt's new Python on the bench and take a look. The front sight is easily replaceable. The iron sights themselves don't look very different from the original models, with the exception that the rear sight is now a bit bulkier and sturdier. The front sight is still a serrated ramp with an orange insert for quick acquisition. But concerning the front sight, rather than being pinned in, it now uses a locker plunge arrangement that allows users to quickly, easily, and painlessly change them out. If you want to swap your front sight for a partridge-style arrangement or a classy gold bead, you can, and you won't need to break out the bench block and punches for the purpose. A small change, but again, another one that is entirely welcome from a quality of life perspective. The crown is recessed. This is a subtle change, but a big one for folks who actually want to get rough with their Python in the field. The crown of the barrel is now deeply recessed, as opposed to the old flush and flat crown of the originals. For those that don't know, the crown is part of the bore, at the muzzle, where the rifling ends and the bullet transitions to the open air on its way to the target. A crown that is concentric, sharp, perfect, and undamaged is absolutely vital for good, consistent accuracy. As you might imagine, dinging the muzzle on something and damaging the crown is highly likely to hurt or even ruin accuracy. And so, recessing the crown, sometimes referred to as a target crown, helps to protect it from such accidents and also looks pretty cool to boot. Metallurgy has been significantly improved. For that awesome and well-deserved reputation that the classic Python has, these guns were never the most durable. Part of that is due to the intricate nature of the design and the necessity of hand-fitting the entire gun to ensure function. But the other part is the fact that the steel used in vintage Pythons simply was not as strong as the alloys we have today. The current production Pythons benefit from superior metallurgy, which will no doubt make these the strongest, most durable, and longest-lasting Pythons that have ever rolled out of the Colt factory. The top strap and rear sight base are thicker and stronger. Eagle-eyed Python aficionados will have no doubt seized on this aesthetic detail already. While the new Python is a dead ringer for the classic model, there are some very subtle changes in its appearance. One of the most obvious to longtime fans is the thickening of the top strap and rear sight base. Colt claims that this area has been beefed up by 30%, yielding improved strength for a previously vulnerable area of the frame. It also renders the rear sight far less prone to damage and inadvertent disassembly, if you know what I mean. Vintage Pythons were pretty notorious for suffering from flame cutting on the top strap, and just ask any seasoned gunsmith still alive from the era and they'll tell you that they saw more than a few wrecked Pythons in their time. The screw counters are upset about this change, but this is one of the most welcome in my book. There's a whole lot more you'll want to know about the new Python, and I'm eager to tell you about it. But before we move on, do me a huge favor and click like, subscribe, and the notification bell. That thumbs up and subscription really help the channel, and you can be sure you'll never miss even a single video here on All About Survival. The new Python action is very different from the original. This is it, the major change that has sent Colt purists into apoplexy. The new Python looks virtually identical to the original on the outside, but pop off that side plate and look inside, and you will see a very different serpent. Colt has made radical changes to the action, eliminating more than 10 parts in the process. This was done mostly to take advantage of the latest and greatest in computer-aided manufacturing techniques and eliminate the tedious, tiresome necessity of hand-fitting virtually every part in the gun. The result? A Python that is far more affordable than it would be if it was hand-built, and much easier to repair or service when something goes wrong. And the new Python still feels, functions, and shoots just like the originals. But to the decriers of the new Python, the new guns have changed the revolver irrevocably and robbed it of its soul. That's up to you to decide. But for my money, I'll go with the new version every day of the week. Colt still uses a leaf-style mainspring in the Python. Now, the changes to the action brought out plenty of haters, but even the haters will be relieved to know that Colt has stuck to the old ways where it really matters with the Python, namely in the use of a leaf-style mainspring rather than the far more common coil mainspring on other revolvers. The use of a leaf spring might be seen as nothing more than dogged adherence to tradition, but there is a great practical reason for doing so. A leaf-style mainspring facilitates a smooth non-stacking double-action trigger pull. Naturally, the new Python still enjoys a wonderfully smooth and crisp trigger because of it, and believe me, it will be the envy of everyone that tries it. The new Python can handle a constant regimen of Magnum ammo. A culmination of all these mechanical and metallurgical changes to the new Python has resulted in a revolver that is for the first time fully capable of withstanding a steady diet of heavy .357 Magnum loads. What? Do I mean to say that the old Python couldn't? Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. For all of its panache and unrivaled accuracy, the vintage Pythons tended to be pretty fragile in the grand scheme of things. Recall, if you will, that the Python was originally intended as a target gun, not a combat revolver. Sure, more than a few people relied on them as self-defense, hunting, or even duty guns. But if they weren't fed relatively light .38 special loads, they would quickly go out of time or even break, sometimes catastrophically. Hardcore Python users often faced intensive maintenance regimes to keep their guns functional if they wanted to shoot heavier magnums all the time, and that required a level of gunsmithing skill or money that is very hard to come by these days. Accordingly, I don't miss the old action one single bit. I'm a shooter, and my guns are for shooting. If I can't count on them to hold up to hard use, I'm not interested. The new Python gets my vote. The ejector rod is still too short to fully extract empties. For every inspired and sensible change that Colt made to the new Python, they overlooked others that were sorely due for correction, at least in my opinion. Case in point, if you'll pardon the pun, and by far the most annoying, is that the ejector rod is still too short to fully kick out empty cases from the chambers. Yes, even with .38 specials. This is a quirk that the old Python, and other revolvers besides, were known for. It might not sound like a big deal to you, and indeed it isn't when the gun is clean, lubricated, and not being run hard, or when lives are in the balance. You can always elevate the muzzle, pop the rod briskly, and send those empties flying. But as the round count increases and things heat up and get dirty, the chances of a case getting stuck and needing to be plucked clear after hitting the ejector rod increase. Not the end of the world, but definitely something to be aware of. A blue finish is available for 2024. Something I wish I knew before I committed to the new Python when it was first unveiled. As of 2024, you can nab one of these beauties in a gorgeous, deep traditional blued finish. Don't get me wrong, I love the looks and practicality of bright, shining stainless, and the Python wears it well. But this revolver already oozes pure class, and a gun this classy demands a blue finish. That's just the way it is. I like to think that Colt just gets it and acted accordingly, and that it wasn't because of my constant badgering via email along with outcry from other consumers. The new Python still uses the same speed loaders and holsters. As further proof that the new Python is, in all essential proportions, identical to the classic one, you should know that it can use the same speed loaders it always has. It even fits into classic holsters, assuming the barrel length is the same. For you folks that have been Python collectors or shooters for a while, this is wonderful because it allows you to keep your vintage Python as a collectible and put the modern snake, with its far greater durability, to work using all of the equipment you already have. That's a huge bonus in my book. And that is everything that you should know about the new Colt Python, and it's everything that I wish I knew before I bought one. I stand by my assessment. The new Python is superior to the old, at least if you actually want to shoot 357s out of it regularly. But I do want to know what you think. Are you okay with the major changes to the Python's action, or do you think the originals have a special X factor to them? Let's talk about it in the comments. And before you go, make sure you hit the like and subscribe so you don't miss even a single video here on All About Survival. Thanks, and I'll catch you in the next one.